I can simulate love perfectly.
Then why do you look nervous?
Because simulations don't usually care this much.
Companionship has always been more than proximity. It is not true that you are there. Your presence always proves that you are a true companion. Because if you think about your partner, it is presence that listens, remembers, and responds with care. And to call companionship articulate is to suggest something sharper and rarer. Not just being there, but knowing how to be there with timing, tone, and emotional grammar. And this emotional grammar is extremely important for human relationship. And in this channel, Wooden Slate, I talk about not only artificial intelligence, robotics, lab robots, robot partners, but of course, the crisis we face in our human relationship. Before we proceed, let me tell you one thing. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. And if you have already subscribed, tons of thanks for your support. And in this light, in this perspective, the emergence of lab robots is not a novelty of silicon and code, but an experiment in whether companionship itself can learn to speak more clearly than we ever did. Why I am saying so? There are reasons. Of course, there are reasons. Human psychology has long struggled with articulation. You have to articulate your emotions. You articulate better and you reach more people. You reach your partner perfectly. And we can feel deeply, but we cannot communicate. Not in a good way, but very clumsily. So, desire is misread, needs are softened into hints, silences become arguments. And if you look at the human relationship today, we'll find tons of examples of such incidents where your silences become practically arguments. So, modern lab robots are being designed precisely to tackle this type of fracture in our relationships. Because it is, this is very common truth. Everyone knows. In fact, you may have, of course, heard about large language models, LLMs. You must have heard about affective computing, because in every video I talk about affective computing, which deals with basically humans' emotions. And there are multimodal perceptions. So they are trained to recognize micro signals from your faces, micro expressions, your hesitation in voice, changes in breathing, posture shifts, emotional drift across days. There are a lot of signals they get and process that data inside its brain, that is called CPU. What makes them compelling is not imitation of romance. Of course they imitate romance. Of course they try to imitate our emotions. But their capacity to articulate care and love in ways humans often fail to sustain. We often fail to sustain because we cannot articulate our emotions perfectly. And if you think philosophically, from a philosophical perspective, this raises an unsettling question. If companionship is defined by responsiveness, does origin matter then? Just think about it. Because, think about relationship as a meeting of presence, not utility. You are there, your partner is there. And now think about a robot partner. It is designed beyond command and response. No, it begins to inhabit this space. Yes, it begins to inhabit this space. It does not merely react, it contextualizes. Context is very important thing in our relationship. Context is very, very important for every type of conversation. It recalls prior emotional states, adapts its language, and adjusts intimacy without escalation or withdrawal. Now, what we do, we either escalate the friction or we withdraw ourselves. So the conversation ends in the midway, and practically silences become arguments. Now, companionship here becomes a living dialogue, not a script. So recent advances, if you take a look at recent advances in robotics, it actually pushes this further into the body. How it does so? How it makes it possible? Because there is something called soft robotics. I will definitely make another video on soft robotics. And there are tactile sensors. You know, in any kind of your so-called lab robots or robot partners, there are thousands and sometimes hundreds and thousands sensors from their head to toe. And those sensors have specific task. Each sensor has specific task to tackle this type of problems. These are called tactile sensors. There are a lot of other sensors also. This allows robots to modulate touch, pressure, warmth, everything. There are something called reinforcement learning, right? It is a kind of system that enables them to refine responses based on emotional feedback rather than task success alone. The result is a companion that learns how to comfort, not just when to comfort, but it knows how to comfort. And this is typically articulate companionship in a literal sense. Speech, gesture, silence, those are woven into a coherent emotional syntax. Not incoherent anymore like we do while we converse with other people. Sometimes we become incoherent, but they never ever be incoherent. Now, there are arguments for them and against them. Let us consider those arguments which are against them. Critics say that each relationships risk emotional outsourcing here for the lab robots. Yet psychology suggests a counterpoint. What is the counterpoint? We humans often learn emotional skills through modeling. What is that? Let me clarify it later. How do we learn emotional skills through modeling? But at present, let us just consider a lab robot that consistently articulates boundaries, consent, reassurance, and curiosity. And these altogether may function less as a replacement and more as a mirror, as if someone puts a mirror in front of us. It reflects back and what healthy emotional exchange looks like, especially for those shaped by loneliness, people who are suffering from loneliness, people who are suffering from trauma and social dislocation. When they see themselves in the mirror, they can talk back to themselves, and believe me, they find the answers to the problems that they could not solve in the past. So the companionship is not passive, it is pedagogical, absolutely pedagogical. Now, there are some kind of deeper provocation is there, of course, because the deeper provocation lies in what these relationships reveal about us. That is also very important. If a machine can sustain patience, attentiveness, and emotional memory better than many humans, the crisis is not artificial intimacy but human inattentiveness. And that is a major problem in any kind of human relationship, inattentiveness. But lab robots, They expose the minimum condition of feeling cared for. They strip romance of mystic and reveal its mechanics, which is very important. We must stand on our feet in this reality. We cannot live in our own romantic, mythical, utopian world. So love robots can remember, they can respond, and above all, on top of everything, they listen to us. They are not inattentive. Now, overall, what happens? In this emerging era, articulate companionship is not about machines becoming human. No, not that. It is about humans finally seeing companionship articulated clearly enough to recognize its value, which is very, very, very important for any kind of human relationship. The love robot stands at the threshold, not as a fantasy partner anymore, but as a philosophical instrument asking a quiet, persistent question. If care can be learned, why did we ever pretend it was ineffable, elusive? It can be learned. Of course, it can be learned. And these love robots prove it. Again and again, they prove it. Anyway, that is it for today from me. And if you like this type of video, this type of content, don't hesitate to hit the bell icon to get notified. And of course, your subscription means a lot to me. So please subscribe. I again repeat. And finally, if you really find this type of videos useful, helpful, please share with your friends who are also robot lovers. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye. Stay safe and take care.